All right, so let's get started. Thanks everyone for joining us. We're going to kick off the next Avocado User Group event. It's a functionality showcase, and we're going to dive into rollover registrations and engage with you guys today. So on the agenda, just like I said, we're just going to give you guys a brief overview, and then we're going to give the floor to a couple guest speakers, and they're going to showcase the latest functionality built into Engage, as well as show off rollover registration functionality in Avocado itself. And we are going to end with a sort of Q&A at the end, so save your questions. We're looking forward to hearing those in this meeting too. And just before we begin, I know I don't even have to say it to this group, but just remember to keep your microphone muted just while our guests are speaking. And if you do have a question, maybe use the raised hand button or even enter your question in chat. We can keep track of those there. And we'll save questions for the end for that dedicated Q&A session. And just in case, here are those buttons. Just remember to use those as we get started. So just a brief overview. Again, this is a functionality showcase. We're looking to just highlight the latest features on offer in Avocado. Today, we're focusing on Engage as well as rollover registration. But as we plan future events like these, we would like to hear from you guys about what you want to see highlighted next. So if there are any Avocado modules, you want a little bit more information about before you roll them out at your organization, let us know. We'd love to do more events like these in the future. And again, these will all be hosted in that Avocado User Group. And yeah. So that said, I'll introduce our guest speakers. We have two folks today that are going to join us. First, Rachel with our team, with our support team. She's going to break down Engage for us. And then we're pleased to be joined by Vic with the YMCA of Hamilton, Burlington, and Brantford. They're going to show off how we use rollover registration at their facilities there with HBB. So that's really all you're going to hear from me. I'm going to give the floor over to Rachel now, and she'll discuss Engage.
Thank you, Isaac. So as Isaac said, I'm going to kind of touch on a bit of an overview for Engage. So this will be kind of broad. If you're looking for more in-depth answers to your questions, feel free to reach out to support. All of this is going to be documented in the full user manual as well. And if you're looking for some customizations, that would be something to reach out to your PM about. I'm going to turn my camera off so that my sharing works a little better. So what is Engage? First of all, it is our check-in app. It is tablet friendly, so you are not required to be on your computer to use it. You can use it on your iPads or whatever other non-Apple based tablet you have. So in regards to customization, we do have a couple different options in the Avocado custom settings. So I'm going to try my best to demo as many of these as possible today. Some of them do kind of work opposite of each other. So it is really just setting it to the way that your organization sees the best fit. So limiting check-ins would be you're only allowed to check them in for the expected amount of attendance. I'm not going to demo that one today because I think the additional line item is a newer feature that you're probably going to be more interested in seeing. But again, if you do have questions, feel free to reach out to support or read through the full user manual.
Sorry, Rachel, cut you off. Can you just make your screen a little bit larger?
Yep.
Thank you.
Is that good? More?
Just a little bit more. Perfect.
There?
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. So that is going to be, we're going to talk about the Engage and enable additional line item. So this can be toggled on or off. It works in conjunction with attendance determines billing. So if you're billing someone specifically per day or per visit, when you add that additional unexpected attendance, this will create a new line on the order. So if that was inactive, it's just going to add to the quantity build. If it is active, it's going to create its own separate line. Member Engage enable drop off. I am going to demo this today. This basically turns on and off the drop off module. So similar to the way pickup would work, you can actually set that on the drop off as well. And then finally is our check-in and check-out buffers. So those are going to be time in minutes before and after the instance that someone can be checked in without a warning. So we are going to just talk about briefly the setup that you're going to need for Engage. So currently right now, things that you would like to probably have enabled for Engage to work optimally, you're going to want attendance and tracking enabled. So that's going to be set to true. Expected attendance records, you can adjust this to be higher than 1. We suggest if you're just looking for 1 check-in per day, just setting that to 1. And then as you scroll down, you do have the Engage bar on the instance. So we are going to check that we are enabling sign-in and self-sign-in age. So self-sign-in age, I will also demo as well. If they are over that age, they don't have to input the pickup and drop-off contacts. So that is what that controls. So this is what Engage looks like when you've logged in. You access Engage through the app launcher. You just type member Engage, and that will bring up this screen. So we do have a variety of uses for Engage and a variety of filters. So we do have Visit, which works in conjunction with Cantaloupe. So this will let you see who has swiped into your facility. We do also have our new skills module in the new release. This lets you track skills and rate skills based on how you create them. So for example, if you had swimming lessons and you were checking someone's proficiency on their backstroke, you can give that individual a rating, or you can bulk apply ratings and track that going forward. But today, the primary of this is going to be focused on the program. So we wanted to mention that you can use this both in childcare and other divisions. I know we predominantly see this in childcare right now, but we did want to state that there is the option to be using this in HFA. So for example, I might need to reload this. When I open Member Engage, I can go to my HFA division. So I know you could use this on things, again, like swimming lessons. So I have my adult swimming lessons. So again, there is the option to have that functionality here as well. I know a bunch of orgs are using it for camps. So it isn't specific to childcare. So when it comes to checking someone in or out, you can use all these filters to your advantage. So setting the division would be the first filter. If you have different regions, and again, this is going to depend on the size of your organization, you can filter by region as well. Your branches, your facilities. So again, it's going to be dependent on your organization. This is kind of used to narrow everything down. So again, larger organizations are probably going to want to use more filters. Smaller organizations, it may not be as necessary. You can filter by check-in status as well. If you want to see who is currently checked in, you can filter by absent to see who's away, checked out, or by all. And then you can select the instance as well. So that's the basics of the filters. I did want to touch on attendance ordinal as well. So if I go to my childcare, so with attendance ordinal, where we see this working is if you have an AM and a PM program. So a before and after school care would be a really good example of this. So with that functionality, I can check people in the morning and check them in the afternoon. And then it does let me filter by the ordinal as well. So I can filter by who is checked in to my morning session and who is checked into my afternoon session. So that's an option as well, if that's something you feel that you would like to use. So for attendance, for checking someone in and out, you are going to see the drop-off module here as well. So if I go to someone who is under that self-sign-in age, it is going to populate this drop-off module. Again, that is a custom setting. You can turn it off if it's not applicable to your organization. For drop-off, you can select one person, and for pickup, you can select 2. If you have a use case where someone other than an authorized drop-off, these are going to be contacts related to the account in the account contact permissions. If, for example, say someone's grandma or aunt or uncle needs to drop them off, you can manually enter the name and phone number and have that be part of your drop off or as part of your pickup. You do also have the option for school drop off and school pickup, again, if that's applicable to your organization. And you do have the option to make notes. So if they forgot their lunch, you could put that in there as well. You do also have a time for check-in. So this is based off of when your instance is set to start. With that checkout, check-in buffer time, if I was to go over 30 minutes before, I'm going to get a warning. If I check them in under that 30 minutes, it's going to work without that pop-up. So that's checking someone in. Checking someone out looks very similar. Based on the contact I picked for pickup, that's going to be who's automatically populated here. Again, you can have up to 2 pickups. So I can either select that contact, message if I want to do someone who's other, key in their information, school pickup, and then your time as well for checkout. So for your time for checkout, same rules as the check-in and out buffer. If I set this to 30 minutes and I try to check them out at 5:45, I'm going to get a warning that they are outside of that checkout time and ask if I would like to proceed. Oops. So they are now checked out. So that's checking in and out. We can also mark users as absent. So when I go into my user and I click mark absent, I'm going to get a pick list that is set in your org of different options. Again, we can work with you to customize this if need be, but you would basically select whatever is most applicable and you can make notes if needed. That's going to flag that individual as being read and absent for their attendance record. So in regards to the add additional day and attendance billing determines billing enabled, as you can see here, Cody Horton does not currently have a check-in or check-out button. This means that they do not have an expected attendance record for that day. So because this is attendance determines billing enabled, I went through, I selected all my days. Cody has decided he's not coming on Wednesdays. But if, say, something happened and he needed to come to a Wednesday, you can add that attendance through Engage. So all you're going to do is click Add Attendance. It's going to bring up that same pop-up module. You will check them in the same way. And because there are 2 expected attendance records, those are both going to populate on the user. So again, what would happen is if you were to pull up his childcare order related to this instance, if I had that additional line on, I'm going to see an additional line on the order saying that he was added for an attendance record on July 27th. If I don't have that feature on and he previously had 20 quantities of the days booked, he would now show as 21. So that would be how you would add that unexpected attendance. If you have a user who is above the check-in and check-out age, I think I just need to check him in. You'll see that it doesn't bring up that drop-off and pickup pop-up. It's just the base module of what time they were in or out and the ability to mark them as absent. You can also go back in time if you forgot to record someone's attendance record the day before. You can go back to the previous day, check them in or out based off of whatever settings are applicable. We also do have the option to open the user. So this is going to populate some of their history. So things like cancellation risk, when they were last seen, visit frequency, and we can see record of all of the attendance on the contact in this dropdown. So as you can see, today is the 27th. They were picked up by Clara Horton, and this is Clara Horton's phone number. We do also have some stuff coming in the builds where you'll be able to see skills here as well and see a historical record of all of their rating. There is also reports that are generated in the new summer release. So these will be in your AVO attendance folder. A couple examples of these are going to be drop-off, pickup, contact report, scheduled versus attended, and check-in and check-out attendance report. So we encourage you to take a look at those and customize them based on your organization's needs. We do also, I was allowed to give you a sneak peek. So I'll have Isaac bring up the slideshow.
Yep, I'm on it. There we go.
Thank you. So we do have some functionality upcoming that will allow you to check someone in simply by clicking the Not Checked In button. So this will completely bypass the pop-up module. So this is going to be probably most used in your HFA divisions. So if you want to check someone in to, say, a group fitness class, you can just click that Not Checked In button and they'll automatically be added for the day. That is all I have. So I'll hand it back to you, Isaac. Thank you.
All right. Yeah, thank you, Rachel. With all that on Engage, I think we'll move on to rollover registration. And I think I will give the floor to Vic.
Perfect. Thank you, Isaac. So rollover registration allows you to offer programs that will automatically roll over from one instance to the next. So I'm just going to take over this screen share. There we go. So I'm with the YMCA of Hamilton, Burlington, and Brantford. And in our childcare department, we do operate within 3 regions. And between our school age program and our early learning programs, we have 114 locations and about 4,500 children currently in our program. In order to better serve our families, a few years ago, HPB shifted from a registration being a requirement every year to a continuous registration model where a parent would be able to register their child once and they would be able to remain in our program until the parent withdrew them or they aged out. When we moved to a continuous registration model, our system was not set up to offer continuous registration. So to accommodate this, children were registered for a full year, which is about 10 to 12 instances for us. And our admin would do a registration blitz over the summer to ensure that all children were re-registered. And this included manually taking out PA days, breaks, and holidays, which was a very tedious task every year. Texture's development of rollover registration has allowed us to automate this process, so a child would only have to be registered in Avocado once. Rollover registration has been very easy to integrate into our process, as it only requires 3 extra pieces of information from what we already have. To work, Rollover needs to know what the next instance is, when you want the registration to roll over, and who is rolling over. So at HPB, our instances are set up on a monthly interval. So after I created all my instances, all I have to do is go back and tell the system what the next instance in a series would be. So if I set up September, would roll into October, would roll into November, and so on. And because it's us that decides what the next instance in a series would be, this also allowed us to skip over summer months for our school age programs, so that someone who is registered in June would automatically be registered in September. All of this can be set up either in the Avocado menu if you do have a small collection of instances, or if you have a large collection through the instance uploader. The next piece that we need is to tell the rollover when we want our programs to roll over. And this is done by setting a relative rollover registration deadline on the program. So HPB has set ours to be 25 days before the end of the current instance. We have found that this limits how many instances our staff would have to adjust if a child has a change or withdraws from the program. And it also allows us to project into the next month for reports. And lastly, it does allow us parents enough time to check their payment schedule in the portal prior to their next payment. And because our parents were used to a full year of payment schedule being sent to them in September, HPB has also developed an automated email that is sent to parents every time their registration rolls over as a reminder to check their payments in the portal. Lastly, the system needs to know who to roll over. And to do this, we set up a rollover contract on the initial registration. Rollover contract lets the system know who to roll over, what days a child should be registered for, any recurring third-party payments such as a subsidy, as well as an end date. If we know a child will be aging out of our program, or if they have a subsidy contract that may be expiring, we can use these dates to prevent the registration from continuing past a certain date. And while the rollover contract does allow us to select which days a child will attend during the week, we can also block out specific days using the calendar feature. So we use this for PA days and holidays. As HPB does operate within 5 different school boards with varying PA day schedules, we need to be able to offer, or the ability to block out these days based on the various locations. So to contend with this, we can block out specific days based on the facility. And if I blocked off a PA day in October, any location that was blocked off will not be included on that attendance or the billing for that month. Rollover has been very easy for us to set up and use. And because it's an automated process, it's easy for us to set it and forget it, because the system does automatically send emails if there is an issue with the rollover. So if a child is already registered in a program, it doesn't want to create a duplicate registration, and so it'll email you. Or if there is a capacity limit that's reached on the program, it'll let you know before registering a child and overfilling a program. And while rollover is automatic, you can also manually trigger the rollover. And this can be done either in a group by the location and program, or individually by child. HPB began using rollover registration for our full day childcare at the start of this year. But we've also been using it for swim lessons. And so it has been helpful outside of childcare as well. And with some of the new functionality that TechShare has added in more recently, such as the third-party payments and the calendar blocking, we are very excited to finish up our last major registration blitz for our school-age program as well. That is everything I had, so I'll hand it back to you, Isaac.
Thank you, Vic. Just bear with me, everybody. All right, so there we go. Just a few closing comments from me. I want to say thank you again to Vic for sharing your perspectives and experience using rollover registration. We couldn't think of anybody better than an Avocado user to show off how it works and why we use it. So thank you again. And of course, thank you to Rachel too, our Engage expert, for showing that off for the group here. Let me see. I do just want to invite you guys to contact your account manager if you do need any additional information about any of these different modules we touched on. I do want to give you guys an update on that survey we briefly touched on in the previous user group event. We are just finalizing that now, and I should be getting that into your guys' hands soon. And the goal of that survey is to just get a baseline of how your organizations are using functions like these, so we can, identify opportunities to plan further events like this and make sure everybody's using these great features built into Avocado. And on that note, I do need to plug the Avocado User Group. So we are planning more events in there. So if you're not on the Meetup, in the Meetup group, I invite you to join so you can find more events like these moving forward. So with that said, I do invite my group here to share any questions for our speakers or for the team here, and we'll go from there.
So Isaac, it looks like Michelle put a question that might be best answered by Vic, if you're comfortable, Vic. Otherwise, I can speak up to it, but it might be better coming from you. So the first question is there anything that does not roll over in the childcare program, items that you have to manually update each month?
So for this, we've only experienced one piece, and I know it's something that TechShare is currently working on. And it actually answers your second question as well, with a multi-payer account. So it does work. You can set up another client payment to make payments on an account. So whether mom's on one account and dad's on another, they can both make payments. The one piece that we're waiting for is the ability for that other client payment to have a set schedule. So if they need to pay on the 1st and 16th of the month, which is our current payment schedule dates, we're just waiting for that functionality to let that in. For those families, which we only have a handful, we are currently maintaining the registration for the entire year, just while we wait for that functionality.
I hope that answered you, Michelle, and I think that kind of answered both of your questions. And then there was another question for you, Vic, from Jen. Curious how you're handling end dates or rollovers when someone approaches the end of a program or level. And I think you did speak to that, but if you're comfortable speaking to it again, about how the end date works.
Yes. So with the end date, we use it for if, again, someone is moving to a different age level. So if they're moving from an infant to a toddler preschool, and so on, we use that end date to stop them from continuing on with that registration. But we have an internal system to ensure that even though their registration is stopping for an infant care, someone in our team needs to go in and add in the next one. So the toddler care, and then set up the registration to continue rolling over from that new registration.
So the contract on the registration has an end date that allows you to control that is really how you, and you can use it. It is somewhat manual, Jen, but it does stop rolling over so that you can address it and then create it.
Yeah. I guess I meant like, what is your internal system? Because we are currently trying to have this internal system work better.
I got you.
Yeah. Our internal system. So for our early learning program, that's based on your age. So we use that to determine when you would move up from an infant group to a toddler group. For our school age programs, if you're moving from kindergarten into a school age group, that comes at the end of a school year, which makes it a little bit easier to identify that timeline instead of by your age.
I'll move to the next question, if that's all right, Jen, unless there's a further follow-up to that. Azim asked, thanks for the demo, first of all, Vic, and then has HBB done any fee increases using the rollover registration yet?
We have not. We were planning on it until the $10 a day childcare announcement came out. So we've had a freeze in our fees. From my understanding and a little bit of testing in the sandbox, it does work fairly well. That when you have a fee change, you're just changing your price book date from one date on the first price book to the next on the second. And when it rolls over, because of the date of the price book, it will catch that new price when it rolls over.
Yeah, correct. Just like it's the same rules as the membership rollover. The price book has to be there before it rolls over, and it'll use the new price book. Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Vic. I believe the next one is a statement from Jen. I don't think there's a question there. And then Mike has asked, is it possible to automate flags on participants? For example, if they haven't completed forms or, something to flag an account. And I can speak to that if you'd like, Rachel and Isaac, just because it is a little bit of a roadmap thing. In our new check-in application, Kiwi, that does some functionality similar to Cantaloupe. We have done some work to pull in account exceptions. And what I see happening in Engage in the next step is, we have birthdays, we have banners for birthday, banners for, if someone's at risk, banners for new members. So there's a handful of flags that are already on Engage. What we see doing is pulling through the account exceptions to allow you to control it yourself through account exception data. So if there was an account exception, I see a banner that shows the account exception on the Engage so that you can control it no matter what the scenario is. Hope that helps, Mike. I think we got all the questions. Please correct me if I did not, if I missed one of yours. And also, please feel free to put your hand up. Azim, yes.
I was typing, but I'm not as fast a typer as I am a speaker. I was going to ask if any WAs are using Engage for attendance and childcare, and I think the demo was nice to kind of see what it can do. But the so what of it for us, aside from just using an iPad versus a piece of paper, would be that we could actually use the records for some of our attendance reporting. Are there any WAs that are doing that to submit like the hours of care that somebody attended, to the government for subsidies, or because that's where a lot of our time is spent, if we're kind of manually tracking attendance, not just for billing, but more for attendance reporting. Is that in place? And is there any reports that can be like shown or shared?
So I'll let, if anyone is aware of a client currently doing that, please raise your hand. Without that prompt, I will say that is the intention, Azim. I don't know that anyone is doing that right now. I think there's a lot of plans to investigate this and implement it. As far as reports, Rachel, I know you are probably the most aware of those. I know that there was some effort spent to create dashboards and reports on this information. And I think that that's something we could share with this entire team.
I'm seeing if I can pull it up right now.
Whether it's a video or even just linking to them, or if you can demonstrate it quickly ad hoc, maybe we'll stay on the phone, or on the conference call. But I hope that answers you, Azim, that it's not, I don't think, active in anyone's case. I think the first version was, I'll call it lackluster, and we've matured it, and now I think we're into the area where it really could be used. I think there's going to be a little bit more maturing as we start using it, but we're committed to making Engage work.
So there should be a bunch of new reports in your 1.55 build. So if I don't believe you have that in your sandbox, but if they should be in there for you to look at as well. We do have some that you can probably build off of. Sorry, Isaac, I'm going to take over from you.
Absolutely.
So we do have like the check-in and check-out. So if you're looking for hours, you could use that to, oh, sorry, my screen is going to take its sweet time to share. Can you see my screen share or no?
We can see it now.
Okay. So we do have like the check-in and check-out. So you could filter a check-in date, check-out date. I'm sure we could finagle this to get you check-in and check-out times with filters. But there are, I think there's about 6 reports Anita's created. And then again, you could obviously build dashboards off that if that is something that you are interested in. But they are going to be under your AVO attendance folder. So you do have like your absences report, your third notice report, staff recorded attendance report. So there are a bunch in there. I don't know, again, it would be kind of tailoring it to your organization and the specifics that you need. But as Matthew said, like, I don't think that's something that would be far off in the future.
So Azim's question next. Yeah. Sorry, go ahead, Azim.
I was just going to quickly, before I jump to my other thing on Engage, I was saying, if some, like, say we didn't put in a registration or an attendance record for somebody, like the parent was rushing and somehow the staff forgot, because that never happens, is it possible to go like retroactively and amend any of the attendance records? Is that through the Engage, or is that kind of in native Salesforce?
Both. You definitely could use Salesforce native, but you also can use Engage to go back in time after they've been registered 3 months. If they weren't in there on the day, You register them 2 weeks later, you could go back and update the attendance records
Okay, cool.
through Engage. And then the second part of your question, I think, is, in Engage, can you add / check in someone who isn't pre-registered? So the demonstration that Rachel gave was someone who was registered but not expected. So that individual was registered but not expected on that particular day. So we added the attendance record. And it's not in front of me. Rachel might know this.
Sorry, I was just going to share again, if that's okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's just easier for me to show things than attempt to explain things. But with the add, I forget what the actual button's name is, this attend button, you can select the instance and then search the account.
That does not add a, sorry to interrupt you, Rachel. That does not add a registration and an order, though, Azim. And you just have to be aware of that. So it's not going to register the person in the program. It is taking someone who's not registered in the program and adding an attendance record. So it is not quite what you're asking. It was more intended for drop-in style classes. Maybe I didn't get there. Someone drops in. Yeah. So it's not meant for someone dropping into childcare, if that makes any sense, because that's obviously not allowed.
Okay, cool. Thanks.
Yeah. Any other questions? I took over on you, Isaac. Sorry. I keep doing that.
No worries.
So I'll put Isaac on the spot. There was work on playbooks for this as well. Would you be able to give us an update on that, Isaac?
Yep, absolutely. So we are working on training playbooks. The intention with these are to have kind of a more handbook style document ready as you begin to implement either Engage or Rollover registration. We're just getting those ready for delivery into your guys' hands. But again, just expect shorter documentation, maybe spend less time in the manual and have these handbooks ready, because we do want you guys to have the resources handy as you guys start to play with Engage and Rollover registration if we haven't yet. And again, those are coming soon.
Yeah, so everything that you're going to see in the playbook is probably going to be in the manual as well, but you won't have to jump from page 1 to page 30 to page 300. It'll be follow the handbook from page 1 through to 30, and you'll understand how to configure and use that feature. Look forward to that. And on that note, one of the things we're aware of is we've been putting a lot of effort into training, manuals, playbooks, things like that, and we're working on coordinating those efforts, and probably going to have a user group about it so that you guys can see where all this is and have it at your fingertips. So more to come on that.
We do have a question from Heather too. For parents checking in and out of childcare, is there a way to have them sign or initial?
So that has been brought to our attention a couple times now in the past month, and presently we don't have a way to sign or initial on Engage, but it is something that has again been brought up to us. Right now we don't have any efforts underway to do that. I believe, and I could be wrong, but I believe this has not been brought up by this team or anyone on this call before. So that's a really good question for you. Is that something that you need? Because it could be just like a form where, when you sign in and you select the person, you could add a signature component to that, is what we were kind of envisioning when it came up. It actually came up in sales calls when people were looking at it, new customers. So I think that's a good thing to maybe put out a question to this team on whether that's a feature that would benefit everyone.
If we have a couple of minutes, I have a question about the rollover registration of third-party billing. These are maybe a little nuanced, so if you don't want to answer them today, that is completely fine. There's two scenarios that, like, when I think about how we might use it, that could be challenging. One, I think Michelle put in the chat for RY around like split families. So we have like families, parents are separated and each have separate accounts. They don't necessarily pay by fixed unit amounts. They sometimes pay by percentages. And because we have daily rates and different number of days per month, it could be a different amount per month, also with adjustments. So is there any way to do, is that like in the current system, I don't see like a way of doing percentage based approach. Like, is that something that you would kind of manually adjust after the rollover has occurred?
So in short, I think, shared pay across parents is something that definitely warrants some more discussion, I think. We're learning more about how you guys are using it and some of the challenges you're experiencing. So I'm looking forward to addressing some of that. I don't know that I personally got my head around it all yet. I think you guys know more.
I think Vic went through the same scenario, so she might be able to speak to it.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, so right now, for parents that are splitting payments, you have a couple of options when you're setting that up with rollover registration. So you can choose it by either a unit amount or a percentage. And then you can also choose to do it based on the total amount for the month or the instance that you're working on, or by the unit. So if you're by the day like we are, you can have it, $10 a day, or 50% a day for those third-party families or other client payment families. The only functionality that we've found is missing is just to schedule their payments for when they want. Right now, it just defaults to the end of the month. That's the only issue we've seen with those other client payments with rollover registration.
So that's in using some of our clients, like you, Vic, use third party on the order, which is great. I think there are others that don't use third party for some reasons, which I won't get into. I don't understand. They create separate orders, and obviously that wouldn't work. There's a challenge there, but that's good to know, Vic. I didn't know that we actually got to that point where the percentage roll over. That's awesome. Does that make sense, Azim?
Yeah, it does. I think the only thing we need to maybe just go back and look at it is, because we have multiple third-party billings on the same order item, we use the third-party billing to first do like our affordability grants or subsidy. And so it's the remaining amount after those first two third-party billing that the parent then has to pay. So the percentages don't often necessarily work because it's the remaining amounts. So it's kind of like the government's paying for 50%, but of the remaining 50%, then split that by the parents for what the parents actually owe. And so we've had to kind of use manual amounts to do those calculations. And so that's where the rollover would be, like, we'll be going back in each month to do that. And then, and kind of on a related situation would be, and hopefully this doesn't happen for too long, but sometimes the amount of third-party billing that they receive is greater than the amount of the order items in certain months. Because if there's only, say, 18 days of childcare in the month of February, and the grant that the government's giving us exceeds that with subsidy, you would. I'm curious if you've ever come across that and what it happens to the rollover. Does it just block that and give you a review flag, or if you haven't come across that, that's okay, because we can go and test that at some point.
Yeah, we haven't come across that yet. For the most part, our rates would be fixed. So whether it's $10 a day that you would get off, where we would manually be applying those funds after we receive it, or manually allocating it. So any overpayment that we receive, we would be communicating back to the payer that we received overpayment and either refunding them or they're getting credited for their next payment.
Okay, perfect. Thanks.
A little bit of chat going on in the text, but I don't think there are any questions for you, Vic, or you, Rachel. If I'm wrong, please correct me. I really appreciate everyone's time, and obviously we're still here. So if you have questions, please bring them forward. I think as you know, as we close out this meeting, we really appreciate your involvement, Vic. We understand what it takes to prepare for this and all the time that you've spent. So thank you. And we hope to continue this trend, because it is really nice hearing from a YMCA to another, other associations and businesses about how you're using it. I think it's much more impactful than listening to Matthew drone on. No, listening to TechShare tell you how we believe the system works. Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Rachel, too. Appreciate your time. I don't thank TechShare employees. No, I'm just kidding. I think we took a few things away that I would definitely consider, like Azim, the order of operations. We already heard from Vic in HBB about applying the payment method or the payment schedule comparative to generating a new one each time.
Yeah, that's great. It's great to hear like kind of how Wise have been able to adapt and use it, but with all of us doing it a little bit differently, there's some nuances. And so hearing Vic how you've been able to manage that and at least taken that leap of, I don't want to say leap of faith, because that's not, no disrespect, but taking that leap and doing that is great to hear. And I think it gives us the courage to dream and expand that. So it helps us identify maybe where some of the gaps might be for our organization based on where we set it up with like third-party billing and how that rollover occurs. So unfortunately, Johnny will get an email from me now with some things that I want, but that's okay.
To be expected. That's great. And I guess as Isaac always ends these, make sure you sign up for the user group, because we are intending to continue communicating to you through that user group.
Thanks, Matthew.
You're welcome. We do see, we've done a few in a very short period of time here, but we do see probably one a month is what we think makes sense. We'll take your guys' feedback on that, on the pace, but as we get into September and people get more busy, it's probably not realistic to do more than one a month. So we'll try to make sure we have the right topics and we're moving forward.
On that note, I think I'll end the recording, but I believe the TechShare crew will stay on call a little bit longer for additional questions.